Hey, my name's Andrew Marsh.
I'm Nathan Manuel.
I'm Lenny Carey.
And we are WinterheartH. We are a black metal, thrash metal band based out of St. John's in Canada on the island of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Look at that.
We have a lot of progressive, like old school Opeth with its old school dissection vibes, with like that 80s thrash, like Peace Sells with Who's Buying, era Megadeth, like riffs.
You get a riff, and you get a riff, and everybody gets a riff.
Everyone gets a riff.
The Oprah of heavy metal, maybe. You guys, I think this is great that you guys are from St. John's, Canada, as Ross Long would say.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you guys got together as a group. I guess we'll start there.
Well, it's funny because I'm the only original member here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with Ross the other day about original members of bands, and I said, you know what I always think is so funny when they bring in these, because eventually everybody always brings in the cover bands and all the other idiot bands, and they'll bring in like Saliva, and the only original member is the drummer. I'm like,
oh, bad. Well, I'm the guitarist and vocalist.
okay.
Our first show was in 2013. We were practicing for about a year and a half prior. The original member lineup was myself, Robbie Butler, who was a high school friend of mine.
Yes.
And through auditioning different drummers, we eventually came across a guy named Michael Small. Played very primitive, like we were.
Michael Smile. Is that it?
Small.
Small. Okay, because I was waiting for you guys to say his name was Michael Smile, and I was like, son of a bitch, that we got to get this guy on, and then he doesn't smile the entire interview. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think so.
I don't think he smiles that often. I'm gonna ask him that. Yeah. So those days it was very like old school black metal, like old school Venom, Bathory, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, that kind of stuff with the thrash metal influence.
Yeah.
So by 2015, we had our first full-length album, Curse the Summer, where St. John's, Newfoundland had the coldest summer in temperature in recorded history.
Wow.
Yeah. Then a year later, we released Resettlement, and things. People get older. What they want in life changes, as we all know. So me and Mike decided to go our separate ways. A year after that, Robbie, music just wasn't his passion anymore. So that's, I should back it up. After we had Michael Small, we recruited Bradley Ivany.
Okay.
Played a few gigs, and then, like I said, Robbie left, and eventually this guy here, Lenny Carey, he was living in Alberta a few years prior. I didn't know who he was. He had an ad on KJAG for Ramones tribute act.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am going to definitely talk to him about a Ramones tribute act here in a few, but go ahead.
So, yeah, we only ever did one show, but it was one for the life experience for sure. And eventually I said to Lenny, "Is like, do you like this kind of music?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, why don't you give WinterheartH a shot, see if you like it?" And the rest was history there. And eventually, last year, we performed in Fredericton, New Brunswick, at the our first ever East Coast Music Awards showcase. And I guess Brad, after that, I don't think he likes that kind of attention. I know it's strange.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a huge fan of pro wrestling, and I'm starting to hear about all these AEW guys that are so afraid to cut promos, and I'm like, what? Yeah. So maybe a guy who was at a band that's at an award showcase is like, I don't want anybody paying attention to us. We might get successful.
Yeah,
so who knows?
Yeah, you can tell I don't think that was for him, so he departed, and this is where we got Michael J. Fox Jr. here.
That is fantastic. Michael J. Fox Jr. That is badass.
It's pretty funny. We actually played a gig last night and the opening band Chokeslam, our former drummer Bradley.
Chokeslam, that is awesome.
Yeah, speaking of wrestling, Brad's actually the drummer for that band, and he's very happy. I mean, that's all that matters. And like even Michael Smile, Mike has a grunge band called Jada Truth. He seems more than happy with that as well.
So everything worked out. I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. So, okay. There's so much stuff here. Good God. First of all, the Ramones tribute band. Let's not let that one slip out the door, as they say. So I got to know about this. You know, give me all the details, as they say.
So basically, I left Edmonton, Alberta. I lived up there for 10 years, and pretty much at the end of it, I love the Ramones. I grew up I found one of their greatest hits live albums in a little discount bin for $5.
That's
awesome. I started listening to that.
Awesome. That's how I discovered Kid Rock. As I found, I found really one of his before he was Kid Rock, when he was basically just that he had a flat top and he was a rapper. That's how I discovered Kid Rock, is I found this tape, and I'm like, what is all this? And then later on, and Ba went to Ba, and he's running around with Joe C, and now he's hanging out with Trump, and I'm like, wow. The guy that I found his original record in like a discount bin at some place here in Hutch, I'm like, wow. He's got Trump telling him how he's going to attack North Korea. It's just amazing.
I was going to say, Kid Rock. I didn't know what Bud Light was until I seen Kid Rock shoot it.
That's right. That's right. So this Ramones tribute band. How do you get all this together?
Well, I tried. I was almost had it together up in Edmonton, but I kind of hated Edmonton, and I just decided to pack up and leave. And
I hated Edmonton.
I came back home. I drove all the way back to Newfoundland, and I was kind of bored because I was unemployed, so I put up an ad to say, like, let's try to do a Ramones band. It's easy, right?
It's easy.
I just sing, and someone else can learn all the music, and
that's right.
Just do something for something bit of fun. And I met Andrew.
I want to be a that's how you got to do.
Yeah, it's like Andrew messaged me, and I was just like, yeah, let's do this. And we were just like, we decided to. It's such a weird thing.
Well, what's funny about the bassist we had, Steve, what's his last name?
I can't remember.
Well, I'm calling him Steve. Steve used to play in a band called Children of Eve, and he's a very modest guy. And it's like, I looked, I was like, Steve, didn't you open up for Kiss once? Oh, yeah, I did.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Really
opened up for there was a guy way back in the day. I don't even know if that guy's even still alive. But there was this guy at one point, Dale Van Zandt, who had basically a rock name. Fucking crazy. This guy had opened up for all sorts of big bands back in the day because he found out where the bands would drive into, and he would just show up with him and his band and their equipment, and they would say, hey, we're the opener. And security didn't check any of this stuff. They're like, okay, come on in. And then they'd have like their merch girl go through the crowd while they were playing to sell merch so they could get the hell out of there and get back to McPherson, Kansas. It's just amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm sure, the guy that opened up for Kiss, you're like, hey, you opened up for Kiss. Oh yeah, yeah, I did. So that is fantastic. So, okay. So this Michael J. Fox shtick that apparently you have, how in the world did this get brought to your attention?
I put a picture of him up on our Instagram to introduce people, and my friend messages me. He's like, so who's Michael J. Fox Jr. in the band now, or what?
That is awesome. That is fantastic. Michael J. Fox Jr.'s in the band.
You're based out of You're in Kansas.
I am unfortunately in the state of Kansas. Yes, I am unfortunately.
What's the weather like in Kansas today?
It's not rainy, but it's not hot. It's just kind of
Oh, okay. Because we're like in sweater furnace weather here today.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We get like the other day I was outside and it was 10 degrees and my girlfriend's like, "Don't you want to put on a sweater or something?" I'm like, "Man, this is warm, man. It's 10 degrees in June, you know? Like this is a rare occurrence for Newfoundland."
You know what is funny is a few years ago when we went to when we went to Las Vegas for the AVNs, also known as the Porn Awards. While we were out there, we took my mother with us. She, of course, didn't go to the porn convention. But she went and went to like a knitting sewing store, or one of these places, and it was like maybe, I don't know, 40s, 50s out there. They're all in parkas and all this bullshit. They're like, oh my God, it's freezing out there. They got gloves and hats on. Holy crap. And it's like, huh?
Is that Fahrenheit or degrees? Sorry, I forgot where if we.
It would be degrees, yeah.
Well, that's really hot. I'd fry in that.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I'd die.
Typical, like for Celsius for us, like a high for us in July or August could only be 21 to 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, so was that like 71, 74 Fahrenheit or something?
Yeah. It's like.
I make best where we live too. The wind is usually existent 24 hours, so you could have a 30-degree Celsius day, but a 90-kilometer wind of northeastern winds.
That's right. And we when we were sitting there in the hotel room, we were watching the local news that night, and they said, "Well, you better watch it tomorrow. Better hold on to your hat. It's going to be 3 mile an hour wind." And we're like, what? So yeah, it's a little bit different of a world out there in Las Vegas, Nevada. But so tell me about your musical heroes and influences, because I'm sure you guys have different ones. So
how many days you got?
Yes.
Well, to summarize me, it really started when I was like 11 or 12, getting into the early thrash metal stuff like Metallica. Dave Mustaine was my superhero when I was a kid growing up. Kerry King, like I was like the dude from Stranger Things, basically.
That's awesome.
As I got older, got into much heavier stuff, but I also really appreciated the 70s era of music in general. I mean, in my eyes, Black Sabbath is the greatest thing to come out of the 70s. I don't understand how people can like Led Zeppelin more than Black Sabbath, but that's just me. Technically, they're 60s, yeah. As I got older, really got into Norwegian black metal. It's very similar in the sense of they're from a land that looks pretty, but it's really grim with the weather all the time, just like me. Right?
That's awesome.
Really into Immortal, Dissection from Sweden. Really into the German thrash metal stuff too. I love Millie Petroza from Creator, Angel Ripper from Sodom, and of course you can't forget the classic new wave of British metal era. To me, that is the original extreme metal.
That's awesome.
Right? Like,
that's awesome.
I mean, people don't like this day and age where music is so accessible. People forget, like, once upon a time, Diamond Head was probably the heaviest thing happening with Angel Witch and Venom. Right? So yeah, how about you?
I've had my feet in a load of different genres. Kind of cut my teeth on like old school 70s progressive rock.
Nerd.
That's awesome.
King Crimson, Genesis, yes, you know, as
Genesis, maybe. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And then I just, you know, I was spending the night at my grandmother's house one night. My cousin said, you know, you got to check out this crazy band. They have a weird singing style, and he pulled up Opeth, and you know, kind of introduced me to death metal, and I just kind of went from there. You know, just trying to find the heaviest thing, and you know, playing as much as I could along with it, and here we are.
Yeah, Mine's really all over the place. Like I love Bob Dylan. I love fucking Knock Loose.
That's awesome.
Another good one, Chelsea Green. I've listened to them a lot lately. They're probably one of my new favorite bands. Really crazy vocals. But then, like, also, like, what kind of inspired me to play music? I know probably a lot of people laugh at me. It was fucking. I love Limp Bizkit. All right.
Hey, I love Limp. Old school Limp Bizkit is great.
Yeah, like, I'll never forget the time I was going through my brother's CD collection and I found fucking $3 Billy All and Korn's first album, and it kind of just like changed everything. They're great albums. Like Wes Borland just really inspired me to play. Like I think he's a really great guitarist. Like he does some crazy shit. And then I can listen to stuff like ABBA. I love ABBA. Like
hey,
really
ABBA's
good.
great too.
I'm all over the place. I fucking love the Beastie Boys. Excuse my language.
The Beastie Boys, baby. That's right.
Like Beastie Boys are probably they're always my number one on Spotify. I got over like 7,000 minutes listening to them last year. Yeah, I don't know. It's like one of those like things. I just think they're all over the place. Like they started out as a hardcore band, and then they like did that song Cookie Puss, and they're like, hey, you should start a rap band, and it's all the rest was history after that. Like such a cool they have such a cool history. So that's why I kind of just fell in love with them.
That is pretty badass. Well, we have got great guests with us today. They join us live here on our big broadcast. So you guys have got some incredible music. We are going to play some of it here in just a few seconds. Tell me a little bit about this Rape of Eden.
It's a Facebook marketing nightmare.
Yes, I kind of figured.
I was doing mentoring sessions with Annabelle Ratney. She was once in Cradle of Filth, Devilment.
Wow.
And she has her own band, Veil. She was really helping me hone my skills as a songwriter, because basically teach me how to be more to the point, because we live in the day and age of Spotify where people don't have the attention span like they would to listen to an album like Injustice for All, for example.
Yes.
So I really taught myself how to trim the fat, even though I'm so used to wanting to write 10-minute opuses. So we were talking about a concept, and we were going to do, first I said horticulture, and she said, well, if you're going marketing in Europe and a lot of your audience, English is not their first language, so a name like horticulture might be a bit of a mouthful from the say. And I was like, okay. So then we were just sitting there and thinking, and she said, how about Rape of Eden? And I just was like, what? I was like, that's ballsy. She's like, yeah, and it's a very catching title. I was like, yep. Somebody uploaded the album on YouTube, and A is an @ symbol to escape the algorithm dictatorship, for lack of better words.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's a great track in the sense it really. Our previous album, Riverbed Empire, that track is probably the most Riverbed-esque, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Like it opens up. I have an Electro Harmonix Mel non-pedal because I'm obsessed, like this nerd here, I'm obsessed with 70s prog and quirky Mellotron sounds. So I tried to incorporate that at the beginning, and honestly, when I listen to the song, sometimes I like to just rip off old Dimmu Borgir.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to do this. We are going to play the title track, Rape of Eden, from Rape of Eden. And we are going to put you guys on a brief hold here on the old Skypa. And we will be back with them here in just a few seconds. We are going to try to hunt down this track here, because I had it, and then I didn't, as they say. So we're going to try to get this in, as they say. Okay. That is interesting. The Rape of Eden. And we are going to go back to our guests. They join us live here on our big broadcast, coast to coast and border to border on the Sunday radio broadcast. And so, gentlemen, where do you see things going with the band over the rest of this year?
Well, with the whole getting over a pandemic, about a month ago, everything was blank pages in the books being slowly rebuilding. And now it's starting to gear up very, very, very fast. We're in talks with, well, I can't say no names or anything at the moment. We are in talks with a record label on a contract for Rape of Eden. We are going to be playing Merciless Metal Fest in Stanley, Nova Scotia in August. There's another potential festival we're going to be part of in November. And there's a band coming, I think Obelisk. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
No, nobody heard it. It's just you and I here. It's not a big deal.
The weekend before Merciless Metal Fest, we are opening for another band. So the shows are starting to pick up again. The problem nowadays is the cost it is to tour, and when you see, for example, Megadeth or Dave Mustaine coming out and saying on the off idling day on the road, it's still costing them $45,000. That's very scary numbers. When you see that Anthrax and Fear Factory have to cut tours because of cost.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yes, very much so. I am just amazed by all the various things that continue to happen in the world around us. I don't know why it is so hard for, especially in the United States. Why isn't it so hard to put some money in people's pockets and give them health care? But that's one thing up there in Canada that you guys don't have to worry about. You guys at least have health care. That's good. Now if somebody could just put some damn money in your pocket.
That's true. Unfortunately, as of probably since 2020, I mean, I'd say nationwide, the hospital system is just demolished.
Yeah.
Like, if you can get a family doctor in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, like,
You're laughing.
that's like winning the lottery now.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's, and the hospital system is basically collapsing.
Wow. That
Well,
sucks.
ours is being bought out by a private company. So.
Well, of course it is. Of course it is. That's.
Well, the government can't take care of anything here. You know, you got that Trudeau dude up there that has,
Yeah, I don't even know what is going on with this guy.
Well, I find our government is kind of like a joke. It's only like the past maybe
Our
half a
government
year
is a
that it started
joke.
getting a little bit of an interesting. Like, I'm more interested in U.S. politics because at least it's kind of exciting, where it's just ours feels like it's just a bunch of dumb Canadians just
I
throwing
feel
shit.
like a bunch of dumb Canadians. That is awesome.
You know what? I think everyone says that, no matter where you're from. I think everybody says or thinks it about their government.
Well, it's the government, right? What do you expect, right? If you think they're going to out there to help you, I guess you're just as dumb as they are.
That's right. That's right. So since you guys are in Canada, I always have to ask my Canadian questions. I always have Canadian questions for folks.
Now, here's the thing. We're from the province that joined Canada last. We've only been part of Canada since 1949.
Well, hey,
be a part of it.
you're still there.
It was 51 to 49. The 49 wanted us to join America because apparently we had a seat in the Senate.
Jesus, what a mess that would have been. Christ. So why is it that, and at least from what I can tell, and I don't know, they probably have, there's probably a few, there's probably a percentage up there. In my opinion, a small percentage, but why is it every single woman in Canada is hot? I have yet to see any ugly Canadian women.
It's the water and the maple syrup. Is it?
It's got to be.
And the free healthcare.
And the free healthcare. That's right.
Yes, our MCP pays for plastic surgery and boob jobs.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. So
I made that last bit up.
So being up there in Canada, or as Ross calls it, Canada, is Bret Hart as much of a national hero as he makes himself out to be in America? He thinks the Canadians think he is the greatest thing ever, which in a roundabout way, he is the excellence of execution. He is the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. He's partially right. But do people in Canada really think he is that big of a deal?
Some parts of Canada definitely do.
Like back in the day, he was like.
Yeah.
I remember my dad saying like he met Bret Hart, and I was just like, like.
See, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'll tell you, in our province, I'll tell you who the national hero, well, the international heroes are. AC/DC.
AC/DC. I interviewed an AC/DC tribute band a couple weeks ago.
If AC/DC came to Newfoundland, it would be a provincial holiday from here on out.
That's
like
awesome.
In Alberta, they're the same way. They actually have on this other radio station, they have ACD3 at 3 p.m. where they play 3 AC/DC
That's
songs.
fantastic.
You're already playing them all day anyway, so now you got to torture me with 3 other AC/DC songs.
Oh, we got to.
Apparently, one of their cousin, I think, what's this? Angus Young has a cousin in Alberta, so they're all like, "Yeah, man, he has a cousin here. Like, yeah, we love AC/DC." And I'm just like, "Calm down, guys." Like,
that's awesome.
it's like
People love
here,
AC/DC all over the damn place because I interviewed an AC/DC tribute band recently called Noise Pollution.
Nice.
And these guys, I was like, oh, it's AC/DC. I like AC/DC. They've got a whole catalog of great songs. And then they have songs that like Hail Caesar. I'm like, what? What in the world?
Yeah.
They have the song Hail Caesar or Safe in New York City. I feel safe in the cage, New York City. And I'm like, holy smokes. But I'll tell you, we crammed probably 200 to 300 people in this place called the Red Shed here in Hutchinson, Kansas. At one point it was an actual red shed, but now they've got a huge building that they're in. But people love AC/DC, so I would not be shocked if AC/DC are like local heroes there in that Providence in Canada. So
yeah, big time.
That is badass.
Wrestler from too?
Sailor White, yeah, he was a wrestler from Newfoundland. He was like a tag team.
Sailor White. That is awesome.
I remember people always talking about here because I used to have a lot of wrestling, like friends that were into wrestling. They're like, "Yeah, Sailor White, man, he's from Newfoundland." And I'm like,
Sailor White, baby. That's great. Well, okay, something else that I want to get your guys' take on, which is I guess Canadian eccentric or something like this. Let me get this figured out here so I can actually figure out what the hell I'm doing here, because I want to make sure I get this on tape, because I'm going to send this to someone. But the former pro wrestling manager turned kind of podcaster, Jim Cornette. I don't know if you guys know of Jim Cornette, the Cult of Cornette.
Yes.
Brian Last, the whole crew. They have recently been talking about AEW coming to Canada and how they're not selling any tickets. They sold out that pay-per-view, the New Japan pay-per-view they're going to do, or it's AEW New Japan Forbidden Door. They've sold the pay-per-view out. They're having trouble selling tickets. And one of the things that Cornette has said is that everything is within the same couple days, and some of the ticket prices are insane. You guys are actually from Canada. What do you attribute to the fact that AEW ain't selling any tickets? Is it because, like you guys were saying, your healthcare system's kind of in shambles, so nobody's got any cash, it seems, and even though it's government healthcare or whatever. But what do you guys think is the issue as to why, like, they've got all these shows in Canada, but they're not selling hardly any tickets? Is it because nobody's got any cash? What is your guys' view on this?
For starters, I can see Jim Cornette saying they don't have a clue how to promote AEW in Canada.
That's always good.
Heard of it. No, I haven't either.
What?
I know AEW like from the United States, but like I never knew they were coming here. Like,
I never knew they were coming here, and like, depending on which provinces they were coming to, like, if I could make it, I would totally go see an AEW show, man. See Darby Allin.
It definitely like grow, like, do well in Newfoundland, because we're pretty much like everyone
Dude,
here is like a bunch of rednecks.
Isn't there a Newfoundlander in AEW at the moment?
I don't know.
Let me see.
I gotta Google this while we're talking.
Because AEW is going to be in that area very, very quick. They're going to be there for Forbidden Door, which, like I said, is the old New Japan, pay-per-view. And then they're going to be there in Toronto for Collision. They're going to be in, then the very next day, very same building, is the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And then they're going to be there Wednesday, June 28th in Hamilton, Ontario. And then they're going to be there again, Hamilton, Ontario, like a couple days later for the Saturday show. Then they're going to be in Edmonton, Regina, Saskatoon, which is always a good one. To reference our Bret Hart conversation earlier, they're going to be in Calgary on the 15th. But they haven't really sold any tickets to a lot of these shows, and Cornette and Last were thinking that maybe it's because, well, one, they're, oversaturating. From what you guys were saying, nobody even knows that they're coming.
Well, one thing I have noticed in AEW, there's so many factions in AEW. I cannot keep up with every faction in AEW.
You get a faction. Everybody gets a faction.
I'm a bit foggy now because I haven't watched AEW in about a year. Chris Jericho, he's still heavily involved in AEW. Right?
Unfortunately, yes, he still is.
He's not.
He is still zapping everybody's charisma and
Ozzy?
Yes, man. Oh. He's not like.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't think Chris Jericho is as well liked as a Canadian wrestler as Bret Hart or Edge or Chris Stratus.
Did you say Chris Benoit?
Oh, Jesus. We don't ever talk about Chris Benoit.
I love Chris Benoit.
Dude, he was one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. And then when I woke up that morning, my mother told me what happened. I was like, "What?" Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's heavy shit.
And then there's conspiracy theories all over the internet that supposedly Kevin Sullivan did it, which is unfounded and just crazy. But yes, Jericho is still involved. He's on most of the posters for the Wednesday Dynamite shows. So you mentioned and he's front and center on the Edmonton, Alberta poster. But so you mentioned that you haven't been watching AEW for a year or so, and you were asking if Jericho's still heavily involved. Why? What motivated you to not be checking in with it since then? Was there some reason?
I think a lot of it was when I heard CM Punk was coming back.
Oh, really?
Like, oh, shit. I was like, oh, shit. It doesn't seem like he's doing anything. And the one that got me the most, oh, my God, dude. I can't remember the match. But it was like an explosion match. And they botched it at the end with the little sparklers. Oh, was it John Moxley?
Yes, it was Moxley.
Oh, those Jim.
Or as Jim Cornette calls him, Plumber Moxley.
when I know Jim Cornette's going to be shitting on AEW, I will listen. There's two things I will listen to: Cornette for hours talking about AEW and Vince Russo.
Well, that is that is good. So with this whole, so since you haven't been actively, paying attention, so did you miss this whole thing with Punk and the falling out with the Bucks and Ace Steel biting Kenny Omega, or Ace Steel's dog biting, or somebody's dog, or something happened. Somehow Kenny Omega got bit. So you missed that whole thing.
Right? And what I don't get is I'm assuming MJF is still there.
Yes, and he's still the heavyweight champion. He's still there.
Have him on the bills. This dude has the potential to be the biggest heel wrestler happening in the whole industry of wrestling. The dude knows what he's doing. He's in autograph signings shitting on 4-year-olds to their face.
Yes.
Right? He's to me, MJF is the closest thing to the Attitude Era we're going to get at the moment.
Well, I think this is fantastic that you listen to Cornette and everything. I'm gonna somehow make sure that Brian Last or Cornette hears this clip. I'm gonna get them this clip here of us. And
what, you know Jim Cornette?
Well, I don't know him personally, but I know people who do know him.
Dude, you have no idea how starstruck I would be if I met Jim Cornette. He's the dude, man. He's he's my number one podcast I listen to, and I'm not really a podcast person, but what? Do you know Jim Cornette's drive-through?
You know the whole thing. The
Dude,
drive-through.
Screaming at people back in the 90s and walked out the WWF, basically.
Sounds interesting.
If your bandmates have not seen the video of him yelling at the people at, what was it, a Wendy's drive-through, you should show them that.
He was a dude from Smashing Pumpkins, William Corgan.
Yeah.
He got NWA wrestling now, doesn't he?
Yes, he bought the National Wrestling Alliance.
Well, Cornette was commentating, and he said something that won't fly today, but flew in the 80s.
It was creative editing, and all of a sudden, he was gone. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here with you guys, how do we get in touch with you guys online and buy your merch and get involved with everything you're doing?
Oh, man. Well, you can listen to all of our music on any mainstream platform. You can contact us on Facebook. I am in the process of getting our Bandcamp page updated for merch stuff, but don't be shy. Message the band page, and we will make something happen. We'll get your shipping costs figured out and everything. And we ship everywhere. We will take your money, especially your American dollars. We want your American dollars.
We will take your money. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, gentlemen, you have been fantastic. This has been great. We're definitely got to do this again. You guys have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay warm up there in Canada, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you, guys.
Dude, if you're the reason why Jim Cornette messages me, I don't know. I might cry.
Well, be listening, because I'm going to get him this clip. And what would be super freak is if they played portion of that clip on the Jim Cornette show. That would be badass.
His rant on Vince Russo from 99 or 2000, or he's
it's legendary. It's legendary.
Vince Russo.
You know what is so funny is that I got to be, I don't know how the hell I got to be somewhat friends with Kenny Starmaker Bolin a few years ago, which was Jim Cornette's childhood friend. And we used to do these Christmas specials where Bolin would come on, and I would schedule porn stars, bands, whatever. And me and Bolin and a few people in the studio would interview these these bands or these porn people. And Bolin was always, you know, he was playing the heel. He was always shitting on the bands and everything. And but the bands just loved it because they just thought it was the greatest thing ever. Because they didn't know who the fuck Kenny Bolin was, and Kenny didn't know who the fuck they were. And it was great. And then of course, as we all know with Bolin, he had that big falling out with Cornette because he played Jim Cornette's voice on Vince Russo's show, and then Cornette found out about it, and now they're no longer friends. And so a 20-year friendship down the toilet, all because of that goddamn Vince Russo.
Oh, dude.
And
Cornette and Russo, this is like Israel-Palestine shit on the go.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. And what's funny is I think it was during the pandemic, when everybody was locked down and everybody was home, I had the greatest interviews because I interviewed all sorts of people because they had nowhere to go. So I interviewed Vince Russo for an hour. And me and my buddy John Mosier, we pretty much talked with him mostly about baseball. We didn't even talk about wrestling. So it was
WCW.
It was insane. We did talk about WCW a little bit because I'm a huge WCW mark, but you
for you.
Go ahead, baby, go ahead.
My aunt, I had an aunt. Well, she's living in Virginia now, but she was for so many years of her life she was living around Tampa Bay.
Oh Jesus!
Oh, she's a huge wrestling fan and basically would mail me up my wrestling shirts because, you know, you had more selection in the States and better prices.
Yes.
So I had lots of Goldberg shirts, and she gave me a Buff Bagwell shirt.
You know what's funny is before he went off to rehab a couple years ago, I interviewed him at an indie show he did at the Cotillion Ballroom in Wichita, Kansas. He's the only guy that was at that show that they would let me interview. And so we went out back and I just marked out and was interviewing Buff. It was great. But I thought you were gonna, when you said Tampa, I thought you were gonna make some reference to that guy. The Hulkster.
Oh.
or make some reference to Bubba the Love Sponge, who I ironically have an autographed photo of Bubba the Love Sponge in this studio somewhere. But yeah, it's wrestling, music, the whole thing, it's crazy. Like you guys were talking earlier about Jericho and Fozzy. You know, I got a photo pass and a press pass to go cover a Fozzy show. Was it last year, year before? And when they came out on stage, you could clearly tell that if Jericho could figure out a way to just do Fozzy full time, he'd do Fozzy full time. Okay. He loved being up there. He was singing and going and kicking and doing all the stuff. And I'm like, I looked at my buddy Big Will, who was with us, and I'm like, he clearly wants to be a rock star.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
he clearly does not want to be a wrestler.
Man, you remember the ECW Heatwave incident with the Dudleys?
You know, I do.
That would not fly today.
You know, there's a lot of stuff that would not fly. You know, I don't know if you guys, the Iron Sheik, as everybody knows, passed away recently. But the Iron Sheik had a documentary that A&E did on him, and I was genuinely shocked. They played this clip, and every time they play it, I'm just shocked. And I've seen, you know, I've been a wrestling fan forever, so I've seen all the crazy shit. You know, I've seen the old woman who was at the old Nitros who wanted to reach out with her cane and get Hogan. You know, all that. If you've ever seen that, they've never seen that clip, you should find that on YouTube and show it to your brethren there, because I think they would be entertained. But but there's a scene in this where they talk about Iron Sheik was just this heel and this bad guy in the 80s. and he walked over to a Marine who was holding a flag while they were doing a presentation and singing, the anthem. And he just kicks this guy in the privates and he goes down. And I'm looking at that going, oh, holy shit. And I'm just like, that genuinely shocked me. Because I've seen all this other crap. But that genuinely shocked me. I'm like, holy crap, he just kicked a Marine holding an American flag and whoop, down, as Cornette says, he went down or quicker than 4 o'clock. He just, boom. And I'm just like, wow. So yeah, it is, but like you guys were saying earlier with the Fozzy thing, I remember when Fozzy, when he first started it, and it was called Fozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And it was all the guys who were in a band by the name of Stuck Mojo. And it was all the Stuck Mojo guys and Chris Jericho. And then they changed it to just Fozzy. And then it went from being parody music to actual music. And then I don't know how it happened, but somebody somewhere, and I know this wasn't a Chris Jericho thing, even though he would probably never admit it, somebody gave them that Judas song. And then all of a sudden, they're the biggest damn thing on the planet.
Yeah.
So but this has been fantastic. You guys are fun. We definitely are going to have to do this again at some stage of the game. Before we let you guys go, run it down for us one more time. How do people get your social media, your music, websites, all the stuff?
So you can contact us on Facebook. We're WinterheartH, WinterhearTH. We're available on all mainstream media platforms. Bandcamp, we are in the process of getting our merch. We're in the process of figuring out new merch as well to entice the newer generations to buy our shit and make us evil capitalists. We're like the Monopoly man soon, man.
Hey, that's the goal.
Oh,
that's really the goal at the end of the day.
Yes, and don't be shy. Message the band Facebook page. We will figure out how to get your merch to your doorstep.
That is great. Well, you guys are fun. We're definitely going to do this again. You guys have yourself a wonderful day, and if you get a chance, my man, show Michael J. Fox Jr. and your and your other friend there some of the clips we've talked about today, because they're freely available on YouTube. I think my favorite is the old woman trying to reach across the barrier, trying to slap at Hulk Hogan on Nitro, and him just standing there like this, and she's just like trying to get to Hogan, right, and it's like that's heat.
Yeah. Question before you go.
Okay, what's up?
Nikolai Volkov.
Nikolai Volkov, yes. What do you have for old Nikolai?
Epic heel to face turn when he just starts singing the American national anthem.
I just all the craziness. What I think is funny is that singers want to be wrestlers and wrestlers want to be singers. It's the greatest thing ever. I don't understand.
Oh, that's that guy. Is that UFC dude?
Who?
Who's that UFC dude who likes to sing all the time? Remember he just started singing a song there during UFC?
I know who you're talking about, and for whatever reason, and I know it's not him, but what pops in my head is Tyson Fury, the boxer, who always
he's like, he has an accent or something. I think.
Yes.
He just loves to sing. He just started singing instead of winning, he just started singing like some random.
Oh
it
yeah.
It wasn't even like the anthem or anything.
You gotta look up, if you don't know who Tyson Fury is, my man. You've got to go look him up. He's an interesting individual. He is definitely not politically correct.
Nice.
He was trying to get a boxing match with a guy by the name of Anthony Joshua, who at one point had a piece of the heavyweight boxing title. And he couldn't get Joshua to sign the contract, and there's all this nonsense in boxing. Boxing is such a mess of an organization and a sport. But Anthony Joshua is a gay guy. He's homosexual. And at one point, during this interview that Tyson Fury's having with I think it was one of your Canadian-owned Ariel Helwani. It might have been with Ariel Helwani, but Tyson looks at him and he says, I'll get Anthony Joshua at some point. He's just an old sausage eater. And I'm like, wow, that is not politically correct. So, yeah, we live in quite the world. Just play death metal. That's all you guys need to do.
Yep.
Just play death metal and be done with it. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys.
Yes, until next time.
Appreciate it. There they go. They are fantastic. This was fun. And thanks for joining us today here on our world famous